guys, it is Tristan with Nerdette's Newsstand, and me and Bianca are back for another Bad Ideas. And as promised, we are going to talk about Man of Steel. And some of the shots and the action is good, but this to me is not how you should be introducing Superman into a cinematic universe when you have, I don't know what Zack Snyder was thinking, because you have...
Did he write it or did he direct it?
That's a good point. David S. Goyer wrote the movie. And generally, I like a lot of what David Goyer does. But
Goyer.
Zach just did the directing. Which means he could have said no to the script, but also he didn't write it. So yeah, that's a good point. That's more fair. But there was
no vision for this movie.
No, there wasn't. And what bothers me is Clark isn't the virtuous Clark that we know. Like, right in the beginning, when he gets to Earth, instead of helping humanity, he's fucking fishing. Like, he does end up helping that oil rig. But, like, he just, like, I need to find myself, so I'm going to go fish. He's got a decent amount of his powers.
What he was doing was that he's trying to travel the world, take on multiple different types of occupations, to see what works, to see what doesn't.
And I get that. And he hadn't even learned how to fly or anything yet. So it was still really early. But, like, even the flashback, I was shocked. I did not remember the part where he's in the closet. You know what I'm talking about? As a kid.
You said closet?
Yeah, he runs, like, he's starting to get his x-ray vision, and he starts having a panic attack, and he runs out of the classroom.
He was in the janitor's closet. Yeah.
Yes. I do not remember that part where he made the doorknob like literally hot. I was like, are we watching Brightburn? Like, what is going on here? Like, that just isn't what Clark does. That's the problem with this movie, is it's so far removed from Superman. Like, even
Clark
as
can't make a doorknob hot?
Oh, he definitely can, but he wouldn't burn his teacher's hand.
Well, he couldn't control it. He had no idea what he was doing. It wasn't on purpose.
It wasn't? Are you sure?
No, it wasn't on purpose. He can't control it. That's why they had to call his mom over. So, and he was saying, the world's too big. And then she's like, then make it small. And then that's when he kind of like opened the door.
That was a sweet part, though. I liked Martha Kent. I will like that.
She's the only good thing about this movie.
And the dog. Don't forget Hank. The dog was good.
The dog was good too. The two dogs were good.
Yes, I did like her. I think she played a great Martha. And I actually, to his credit, I'm not really familiar with the actor that plays Zod, but he sells evil. He sells villainy very well. He looks like somebody I know. And the whole time I'm watching him, I'm like, I know he looks like somebody, and I can't place it. It's Mouse or something. I have a weird thing with Mouse with I don't know, don't ask me. But he does sell it very well.
Hologram, I guess it's more updated, and I'm like, it kind of loses its flair. I hate it.
Yeah.
And like it's his, like it reacts to him. And
he has
so
no
I'm like,
fortress.
So this is his fortress.
This is like his new fortress.
So easily, and then gets into trouble. And he's like, "Hey, I'm just gonna like put heat vision on this wound." And then it kind of looked too sexual. And I'm like, "You just showed your face," and because he showed his face, he knew where he lived automatically. And I'm like, "Bro, this is too fast." And she's calling him Clark in the Superman outfit. Like, bro, shut up.
It was immediate. There was not even she didn't even try to hide anything. He was just like instant trust. And it's like, bro, this chick could have been crazy. Like, we don't know. I understand, like, Clark would help her when she got hurt, right? But like, there are ways you can do this, and this wasn't the way. And that ship was, remember when they were talking about Krypton? Oh my god, I can't believe that nobody else picked up on this, but they literally, maybe they did, I don't know, I didn't watch reviews or anything, but they literally made Krypton, the people from Krypton, evil colonizers.
Yeah, genocide.
genocidal colonizers. They had outposts all over to colonize like a bunch of different planets. Like, I was
also,
just like,
Jor-El died because of a different opinion. They're like, we both want to save Krypton. He's like, yeah, but I don't want to do it this way. Oh, well, I'm just gonna stab you. Then.
Yeah, I'm gonna kill you.
Dies before the planet dies,
and that leaves Laura to simply die on her own.
My sister was like, her acting is bad.
Yeah, I agree with the mom. And also it was like really dumb because when Zod and everybody get through the door and Jor-El and Lara are standing there, that pod had not taken off. He should have figured out a way to send the pod up before telling him his entire plan.
Yeah, for some reason this happens to be a habit in this movie. And I'm like, can you shut up? Like
he was the entire plan. And then they try to shoot it down. I'm like, why would you not shoot the pod in the air, distract him, and then be like, oh, it's too late now, instead of being, it was just so dumb.
But it did the same with Clark when Zod was taking off his shield. For some reason, I'm like, the atmosphere is different, so I don't even, I wonder why you even tried. And he was like, oh my gosh, what are you doing to me? And then he's just like, I honed my skills. You just have to get used to it. And I'm like, why are you telling him that? He's going to try now, you moron.
He's like, my parents taught me to focus my energy. And I'm like, you just told him how to hone his skills, dude. What is wrong with you? It is there are so many like I will take the cheese over the ridiculousness. I even thought like Pete Ross, how he's usually a part of Superman's origin. He's usually this friend, right? A lot of times even we see Pete be the first one that Clark tells his secret to as a kid. You know what I'm talking about? The redhead?
No.
The redhead kid that ends up working at IHOP later on in life.
Oh, yeah, the IHOP kid. Oh.
He's a dick, though. Like, you took this character that was in Clark's origin that was such an integral part of his upbringing, and you made him a cock. What? Why?
Well, when he's a kid.
Yeah, but generally, Pete, as a child, is Clark's bestie. Like, BFF forever type.
Ah, and they just made him, like, classmates.
Yeah, they just made him, like, the bully. What did you think about the... What did you think about the school bus?
The talk afterward or during?
Okay. Clark had to. Like,
yeah, he had to.
There was no excuse why. Like, had it gone down any other way, I would have shut the TV off and told Zack Snyder everything I thought about him, even though I've done that already. But what did you think about what the dad say?
It was the most stupidest thing I've ever seen. It was incredibly selfish.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this is not Jonathan Kent. Who are you? Like, everything his Clark does is just so disapproving. And I'm like, listen, bro, you're way too freaking picky.
Jonathan in this is the worst Jonathan I have ever seen. He not only tells him he should have maybe let those kids die, all those kids die, but he literally, like, almost, what's it called? Like, brainwashes him into believing that he has to hide who he really is his almost entire life. Walking down there right before he passes away, and he's like, I know you're made for great things. And it's not scoring touchdowns. We don't have a single great moment from Jonathan like that. Like, he tries to do it, but it never just lands the same way. And that character was completely wasted. That character was like, Martha tried, like, to her credit, at least she wasn't left alone for 12 years. But you can only do so much. You have Ma and Pa Kent that are supposed to be so important. And Zack Snyder, this movie was just like, fuck parents. Fuck parents. We're just going to do whatever we can to make it bad. I guess is the best way to put it. I don't know. It was really disappointing because you can have this great Superman story, but it starts with a great foundation. And that foundation was completely squandered in this movie.
Perry White was disappointing too. I was like, I thought this was a person who like trusted Lois Lane because he knows that she can get a good story with sources and everything. Yeah, and he doesn't trust Lois Lane in this at all. He constantly says no to her, and I'm like, did you just say no to Lois Lane?
And he put her on leave for 3 weeks. I'm just like,
great actor, bad script.
Yeah, she had to go to a internet blog person to try to get the truth out there. And then on top of that, when she wants to bury the story, he's like, yeah, it's probably smart. Like, we don't need the truth out there. Fuck the truth. Like, I was just like, oh, man.
And I'm like, are you really the Daily Planet?
And no Jimmy Olsen either, which is
no Jimmy Olsen.
And then when this story continues and you go to BVS, have you ever seen BVS?
Yeah, that was the only Superman movie I saw from this Zack Snyder universe.
They killed Jimmy, like, right away.
Yeah, wait, was that in the theatrical cut or the extended cut?
I don't remember because I didn't even realize it was Jimmy. I had no idea it was Jimmy because they don't say his name. The only reason people knew it was Jimmy is because it was in the credits as Jimmy Olsen.
But, you know, Zack Snyder's movies are great. I don't understand how there was a big fan base with this movie.
I don't either.
At all. I don't understand.
The one thing I'll give Zack credit for is he did not use near as much slow-mo.
No, instead he did the opposite. He used fast-mo. Way too much. The Kryptonians use they're super fast, but because of that, when they use it for battling, it makes them look awkward.
Okay, maybe you can answer this question because I am so confused. If they have their suits on, the Kryptonians, while they're fighting Clark, and they're not exposed to the yellow sun, why are they so powerful and why are they so fast? Is it the suits?
Suit.
Okay, maybe.
I had a suspicion it was the suit because they're never seen without it unless it was Zod, but that's when he was actually taking in the yellow sun.
Right, and I was like, well, if they shouldn't have this power. But yeah, that's what I was confused about because I was like, it's got to be the suit, right? Like, it's got to be. What did you think about the scene where he's a bartender or some sort in the service industry?
More romantic connection just looking at that one girl than he did with Lois Lane in this entire movie.
And she returned it too.
Yes. And I'm like, shoot, this ain't Lois Lane, but you know. And then that scene was super confusing to me. Like, there's this guy, he slaps a waitress on the butt. He goes to defend her, and everybody's like, no, don't do it. It's not worth it. And I'm like, first of all, he just assaulted you. He should be kicked out.
Yeah.
And probably banned. He should not have been still in there drinking. Somebody should have called the cops too. What the heck? And then, when he goes to his truck is like stabbed multiple times. And I'm like, this is overkill.
Yeah.
What he did was not right, but that should not have been the punishment. The punishment should have been kicking him out.
Yeah. And the fucked up thing is whoever the owner or manager or whatever it was of that establishment should have taken control at that situation and been like, look, this is my employee. You just like grabbed her butt way too much. You're not welcome here. Like,
and he shoved Clark too, but because Clark is so strong, he was moved back. And then the girl's like, Clark, no. And I'm like, he's not doing anything. He's not doing anything. What do you mean, no? He's just standing there doing nothing. And what do you mean? No, don't do it. He can literally just grab his arm, shove him out of the restaurant or bar or whatever.
Yeah.
It's so easy. But he got in trouble. How did he get in trouble? He had to leave.
And all those army people were in there, and they just laughed.
Yeah, right.
Like, those people you would think would be like, dude, that is not cool. No, they just laugh at Clark getting a beer over his head. what the fuck does Zack Snyder and David Goyer think of men? Like, why would, it's so frustrating. Like, and I can't, I have another issue with Clark, like, crucifying his rig, right? Like,
crucifying his what?
His truck. Like,
yeah.
like that's a huge overkill.
It's
not
too
only
petty.
that, and yes, and that's the thing. They're going for Clark that is petty enough to do something like that. Like, and then on top of it, you have to think of the ramifications. That's a bar. People are coming and going. That took a minute. Who saw him? Right? Like, it's so frustrating, this movie. It just shows you that he does not get Superman at all. And then, so kind of going back to Superman 78, we see Clark go to the fortress, right? And we see him essentially study and come out a man 12 years later. It took him 12 years to learn all of the Kryptonian technology and information and to learn how to hone his skill. We see Clark in this, meet his dad in that ship. And he just says, we don't know the extent of your powers. You have to keep pushing yourself. And he learns how to fly. And he learns everything Clark learned in a day. Like, this is the definition of, what is it for a dude? Gary Stu or Gary Sue or whatever it is?
Something like that. It was funny when he fell to the snow.
Like, he caused an avalanche.
He went faster than Christopher Reeve's Superman tried to save Lois Lane. And I'm like, this is the speed you should have gone, bro.
Yeah. I just was like, there's never a moment where we see, like, one thing about character development is you have to see a character fail in order for them to succeed, right? You can't just have always this perfect character. He fell once and learned how to fly. He knew everything else because his mom talked to him through a closet. Like, I get you're having him learn his powers a little bit through his childhood, but then demonstrate that. Show like a training sequence with his dad. Show something. Don't make it feel so much like a Gary Stu. I hate saying that. It sounds weird.
More of a hero in this movie than Clark was.
God, right? Like,
I was on the edge of my seat.
With that
like,
Jenny?
come on, we're gonna push and push, yes! And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I'm like, yo, I don't think you're gonna get this girl out, bro. And then he just holds her hand and just waits. And I'm like, bro, I'm about to cry right now. Oh my gosh. I thought they would die.
That scene right there was the most emotionally impactful scene in the entire movie. Her eyes being trapped under there, the way she looked up at Perry, sold it. Like, she did a great job in that role. And I was like, holy shit, I'm more invested in Perry and Jenny and the other guy right now than I am what's going on with Zod, because they're terraforming and it's almost about to hit them, and I'm just like,
she gets in trouble way too many times. He had to see, he's like, the building is falling, let's go.
Mm-hmm. I thought that scene was great. That really was. There was so much issues with this.
There was so much destruction, and it was just so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And it's like, when I've seen in the movie that when the Kryptonians knock out, they usually get back up after a few seconds. When they knock Clark down, he's down for a while, for enough to have them do more destruction, and then he just gets up. And I'm like, that was way too long for you to be down. You've honed your skills, bro. Like, get up, bro. Like, there's people dying. There's buildings being destroyed. And I'm like, every time they punch each other, there's another building. And I'm like, yo, how many buildings do you have in freaking Metropolis?
It starts off in Smallville, though. It starts in Smallville, and it's so, like, all of Smallville is completely obliterated. Like, there's so many dead people there. Like, they don't show all of it, obviously, but like having that start in Smallville and having, like, you know, one thing that Clark has is freeze breath, and what bothered me was when he went through, like, someone says something about his mama, and he goes through that what was it, a gas station, and it blows up. And it causes, the car that was there getting gas, everybody in the thing, to blow up and die. He could have literally turned around before it got that bad and used his freeze breath and put out the fire. But instead, he literally, we saw in Superman 78 him save a fucking cat. We saw him save over and over and over again. Clark doesn't give a fuck to save anyone in this movie.
I feel like there was probably 1 or 2 times he tried, but they're so insignificant. I don't even remember it if it did happen. The ending, they were foreshadowing the entire movie that he was going to kill.
Right.
And it's like his dad was like, my son's gonna finish what I started. I'm like, wait, what? And then Zod was like, you're gonna have to kill me. And what you would assume as an actual Superman fan is that despite them saying that he would go the opposite route, but he didn't. He went the exact route everybody was foreshadowing. And I kind of want to ask, did that family die? I have no idea.
I don't think so. But I was looking at, they were in that corner, right? And they had something next to them that they could have they could have been proactive about it. They could have put the kids
My sister
on
and
top
I were
jumped
saying
up there.
Thing.
Yeah.
We were like, if you go to another shot, they have so much space to run.
So much space. And they could have literally got out. They chose to sit there like that father could have picked up both those kids, put them right on top of that debris that's next to them. They could have gotten
stairs, away. By the way. It was stairs leading to another room.
Yes. And I was just like, instead he breaks his neck. And I have a huge
problem. Could have just forced those eyelids shut.
Why didn't he just put his hand in front of it?
Like in the Superman and Lois.
That's what he did with his child.
I was like, yo, he's putting his son's heat vision in his hand. That looks like it hurts. Yeah. I love you.
Instead, why would they not? Even with the foreshadowing, it would have been perfect if they would have figured out a way to either contain him in some sort of, high security containment with kryptonite, if they would have figured out that kryptonite was a weakness. Or they could have sent him like they did with, the Phantom Zone, or literally anything. The writing could have been fixed on that, and at least the end would have survived. Instead, Clark Kent, Superman, the most virtuous of us all, resorts to murder.
And it's okay. The reason I'm asking if they died is because when Lois comes in and starts to comfort him, you go back to that shot, and they're not there.
It also drives me crazy that Lois didn't go check on them first.
That's what I was like, bro, why didn't she check on them first? And that's what I was thinking, if they were freaking dead.
Yeah, also, I don't think they are, but she should have. A Lois Lane would have not went to the most superpowered alien. I get he's upset he had to kill him, but she would have checked on the human first. Not saying she wouldn't have went back to Clark. I'm not saying that at all. But she would have went and been like, look, these are children. Are you okay? Nope.
She's too thirsty. They made her too thirsty.
So thirsty. She is head over heels instantly. And it resorts Lois to a point to that relationship. That's what her importance is in the story. At first, it's a little bit of digging and learning who he is. We don't see her working on any other news. Her whole existence is Clark.
That's Lois, extremely disappointing.
Because that's not Lois.
I was so confused with the military guy. Is that her dad, or is that some different person?
I'm assuming it's a different person. This whole movie, because it wasn't General Lane. They didn't call him General Lane. But this whole movie is so militarized.
I don't remember even saying his name in the movie.
I just remember from crime shows on cable. Did you notice how militarized this movie was, though? Yeah,
very.
They got big bucks from the government. Big bucks.
Did they really?
I'll find it for you later.
I didn't think that could be possible.
Yeah, there is a video that I think it's actually from the U.S. Army, and it is talking about what they did. And it is almost to a point where it was over militarized, overdone. And
yeah, they're constantly adding the military in there, and I'm like, just go. You're not needed.
And the main guy, I can't remember his name. It's not General John Jones, but didn't they say he was basically a Martian Manhunter?
I didn't recognize that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were.
Oh man, I missed it.
Yeah, check. I gotta show you this because it's so militarized and overdone that they show how they had these ads. Check this out.
They are in your community, perhaps in this very theater. Seemingly ordinary people who know the uniform they wear makes an extraordinary difference. People who always answer the call for help, revealing who they truly are. Capable of extraordinary feats. These are the citizen soldiers of the National Guard.
National Guard, that's what it was.
The only person who saved was Lois Lane.
Learn how one American icon inspires another at soldierofsteel.com.
They got big bucks from the National Guard. Isn't that crazy? I'm sure it happens, but I don't know of another movie that was so, I don't know if influence is the right word, but so like funded by the government than Man of Steel.
Remember when I said that I was pretty sure that Clark saved people, but I didn't know what it was?
Yeah.
It was just Lois.
It was just Lois?
If you saved more people, they would have showed it in the trailer.
Yeah, it was because she fell multiple times and he had to get her.
You could pay it 4 times before.
And then she got her kiss, which is what we knew she wanted all along. And then at the end, you know when he takes that satellite and he drops it and he's like, "You guys can't spy on me."
He's like, "Yeah, I know you guys been spying on me." And he's like, well, how do we know if we can trust you? He's like, "You're just gonna have to trust me, like I trust you." And I'm like, "No, you didn't. If you did, you wouldn't care about the satellite."
But then that girl, that is so fucking cringe.
Oh gosh.
He turns around and he goes, "What?" And she's like, "I don't know. I just think he's kind of hot. He's kind of hot."
And I didn't hear that. I was asking my sister, I'm like, "What did she say?" And my sister was laughing and she's like, "Bro, she said he was hot." And I'm like, "Oh no. Oh, I'm glad I didn't hear that." Ooh.
It is so like she could have literally been like, I just feel hopeful when he's around. He inspires me. Anything.
Right.
But instead she went for more of the thirst. Like, it was the cringiest line. Why would you do that to a movie like this?
I asked my sister, I was like, "If you were in Metropolis with this Superman, would you feel safe?" She was like, "No."
No.
It's I understand when people call this edgy. It's like this movie was just created to see buildings explode.
Yeah. I could not believe, like, there's a lot of great Superman stories. There's times that Metropolis gets, some buildings broke. Like, that's just natural in a Superman story.
Product placement.
To have Smallville demolished, basically wiped off the map. And then, I don't know where it was at in the I think they said South Indian Ocean. But when they started terraforming, they knocked out half of Metropolis too. And then the other half that they didn't knock out, Superman made sure to do so. Like, he didn't try to take this. He could have literally tried to take this fight anywhere. And that's one thing I will praise Superman and Lois for. Because when they had, in the first season, they had Steel. And that ended up being the reveal that it wasn't Luthor, it was Steel.
Oh,
wait. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Okay. And he ends up not being like this bad guy that they think he is. Just from a different planet and da-da-da. So
makes a lot more sense.
In one of the first episodes, when they first have their initial confrontation, Steel goes into Metropolis. Clark makes sure, or Superman makes sure to get him up, right? He makes sure to get him up in a way. And I think that's one thing that I tried to look for it, but was there a single time when he tried to get them away from people? Or
no, that's what my sister gripes was with the IHOP scene. When they're in the IHOP scene, they're not telling people to go away. They're not trying to move the fight anywhere else. They're just fighting in that IHOP, and people are scared.
They don't care. That's the thing. Not only does Clark not care in this movie, but Lois doesn't give a shit either.
And he only matters if it's his mom.
Right. He'll kill over his mom, but any other citizens, he's like, you guys just chill. I'm going to fight this guy. If you are secondary damage, it's cool. It's cool. What did you think of Clark or Zod's people? Fiona, and I can't remember Fiora. I think I said Fiona. Fiora and the other one. I don't remember his name.
Fiora, obviously, she was great.
Mm-hmm.
The other guy, I don't know. Dude doesn't really talk much.
He's just a brute. Like,
yeah.
That's what he was there for. I liked Fiora. I think the actress. I was so confused at first because when they're on Krypton, she's got like her hair did, right? And it looks really cute.
Mm-hmm.
And when she puts on that mask, she almost looks like a different person. I'm like, that is not the same person. But it was. But like, she does a good job. She does good selling evil. Like, I like that she was kind of second in charge, right? Zod's not a sexist. At least we know that, right? That's fair. And I actually like that she gives some exposition about the difference between Clark and humanity and them. And that is the fact that she doesn't have a moral compass. And that's her evolutionary trait. I thought that was a really good way to explain why they don't give a fuck about, being Kryptonian colonizers.
I was so confused about the Codex thing because they're like, oh, this planet will be our new Krypton. And I'm like, I don't understand how you would make that happen. Like, he was saying that in a way that the Kryptonian people were going to like reemerge in a way. And I'm like, but don't you guys have to like breed for that to happen? And you only have one girl.
Okay, the Codex thing is this. Kryptonians don't breed. They're born in a birthing complex. That like mossy.
Oh, that's right.
Stuff?
Superman was the only natural birth.
Yes, in centuries. And they're born for a specific job. They barely have any free will, right? It's real distant, like totalitarian or dictatorship, right? And the Codex has all the genetic information of the people that are going to be born in the future. So he wanted all of that genetic information. The thing is like, I also found it very weird because initially it looked like what he did with the Codex was make it into that Superman key.
Mm-hmm. But
then later on they say it's infused with Clark's DNA.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, all right. But I never really cared for how they did that, like on Krypton, when it comes to like, you don't have the natural children, right? I think that's weird, but I get why they do it. And that's all he cared about. All he would have had to do is realize that they can just reproduce to have more Kryptonians.
I did find Zod kind of faulty in here. I will say that I don't know anything about Zod, but when he keeps constantly making speeches about how he loves Krypton, he's supposed to fight for Krypton, he's the general for Krypton, he was created to fight for Krypton and stuff, and I'm like, well, Krypton is gone, bro. Right. You just gotta deal with it. And he's like, if I don't have Krypton, I have nothing. And I'm like, then have nothing. Don't force to make a Krypton so you can protect it.
Like, that's why I said Kryptonian colonizers. He was gonna make Earth into new Krypton, then take that Codex and make a whole bunch of brand new babies.
Yeah, and I'm just like,
yeah, Yeah.
Stupid.
If he's so intelligent, if they're so advanced, why would this man not realize that they can just reproduce? Like, you still have genetic makeup. Your DNA inside you is Kryptonian. Have a child. It's clearly possible. Clark was a natural birth. Right?
Now he has to have those flying creatures and those underwater creatures. He needs to have a place that looks like Krypton to be Krypton. When Krypton is not a place, it's a people.
And it doesn't make sense. Like, they could have came to Earth the same way Clark did. They're out there. Like, they could have had, instead of, that go to LA and you've got like little China, you've got little Krypton now, right?
I think it's just infused into their making.
Yeah.
Which, like you said, lack of free will, that kind of stuff. So, like, R.I.P. those guys, I guess.
Yeah.
But that kind of sucks because they're not doing, that makes them, like, brainwashed. They're not doing this because they want to. They're doing this because that's their genetic makeup.
Yes, they have zero free will on their own. None whatsoever. And that's what kind of, I don't see that as, that's like they use it as a future. Right? That they're kind of more advanced than us. If that's more advanced, I want to stay how we are now. Because I don't want to be born into a job. I don't want to be born into ideals or ideology or morality. I want to be able to make those things up on my own. And the only Krypton person that we seen did was Jor-El. He was the only one that had a mind of its own. Like, even the elders.
Maybe he was a natural birth.
I don't think so. I think he was just smarter. Or at least, like, maybe he should have raised Clark. He may have came out a little bit better than from Jonathan. Because Jonathan had that dude brainwashed to think that his powers were bad. Like, not necessarily bad, but something that needs to be hidden. Jonathan, I hate Jonathan in this movie so much.
We all hate Jonathan.
Did you notice, like, the tentacles that they use were so much like Dr. Octopus in Spider-Man 2?
No, I didn't recognize that.
They were, I don't know, it just drove me crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I know which one you meant now.
I just was like, why? Well, I get it. It's supposed to look like, they looked like angry little crabs. The machines did. And I just, ugh. So what did you think about the way that they did the ships? All I could see the entire time was little evil crabs.
That's it for me.
I was like, like they look cool. The little pods look cool. A lot of the stuff, like, oh my God. I don't know if I'm fucking for or what, but when Clark first finds the ship underground, right? Lois is following him, but she's not quite there yet. And he walks into that room and there's a bunch of open spots. We find out later that they're the birthing chambers. Yep. The whole time, I'm like, I get that they're birthing chambers, but they made them all look like fucking vagina. It's like, that's why I said, I don't know if I'm for or what, but was that done on purpose because they were birthing chambers? Like, we got cool, like, looking, high-tech looking stuff you can make, and you go with vagina. Okay, all right, sure. I guess so. I don't know. Like, I'm not trying to pick, and I'm not trying to, like, maybe a little bit. Maybe I'm trying to pick a little bit. But it's just, like, really disappointing when I know we had Superman Returns with Brandon Routh. Have you seen that one?
Say that one again, the title?
Superman Returns. Brandon Routh did that one.
No.
That's Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor. But I know we had that one. But it's really disappointing when you hear you're going to have this great Superman movie come out. And you're going to have, Henry Cavill, who looks so much like Christopher Reeves, right? And he plays the part well. And then you get this. Like, you get Omni-Man Light. You get a little bit of Homelander in there. And I can understand why people were upset. And I know that they said they even used, like, some imaging from 9/11 and stuff. Like, this shit's dark. This shit's full of murder. Remember in Batman when they were going out of the water. Pattinson Batman, the most recent one. And that little Batman was helping, and he's kind of looking at the sky. It's just getting light. That little boy squeezes, or little girl, I'm not sure, I don't remember, squeezes his hand because he's scared and he doesn't want to leave Batman's side. You know which part I'm talking about? When they're getting out of the water from the arena.
Oh God! Well, which one was that again?
Pattinson's Batman. Slacker.
Getting out in the water, and
the arena floods, and they start saving people, and they're up on top of the arena, and they're putting people in the helicopters.
It's the arena part that got me, and I'm like, an arena? Is it an arena? I don't know.
Remember, there was a little boy on a stretcher, a little kid on a stretcher.
Yeah.
And he
was a girl on the stretcher.
It could be. I don't remember, Bianca. And he squeezes his hand because he doesn't want him to go, and he's doing that kind of over exposition, talking about, kind of along the lines that I wanted to save Gotham, but Gotham saved me, right? That little 2-minute part of Batman was more inspirational than the 2-hour movie of Superman.
I was literally about to say that too. I was going to compare it to the Pattinson.
Like, it gave you that, like, I want to do better. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it's supposed to be. Superman's supposed to be an inspiration for humankind to be the best that they can be. And Superman is the worst. It's such a disappointment of a movie in general. Like, it really is.
Yeah. Do you know that thing that some movies do where it's like, it's supposed to be like somebody overcoming something, but they cut the scene and go to somewhere else, and then they cut back, like a back and forth?
Yeah.
There was a scene where, everybody is like dying and everybody's trying to get out and all that stuff. And then it's Superman. It's originally cut to Superman having the Kryptonian thing on top of him. And he's trying to like focus and like get used to the Kryptonian atmosphere. And I'm like, this is a really bad cut. You're cutting from him to people dying, and then back to him, and then going back and forth. And I'm like, this is not a good cut for you. Like, people are dying, and you're trying to compare that to him, like, getting used to the Kryptonian atmosphere to try to destroy the ship. And I'm like, that's really, really bad. That's not good.
Like, read the room. Oh my God. And you know what? I actually understand. Remember in the beginning of BVS where Bruce Wayne's driving and he's like really pissed. Like, he's seeing all of what's going down, and he helps a little girl. Her mom died. Like, you remember what scene I'm talking about? So in that scene, Bruce Wayne is super pissed, right? Yeah. Like, he fucking hates Superman in that moment. I'm like,
I totally understand.
Like, why? What did Superman give to the world to make him like him out of this whole movie? Can you think of anything?
Comparing him to God multiple times in this movie?
They do that with Superman all the time. You should, like, in Superman Returns, they do it so much more. It's kind of like Superman's saying to be compared to Christ. That's fine. That actually doesn't bother me. What bothers me is they use the comparison, but don't take the lessons learned through inspiration and help. You know what I mean? Like, you can use a comparison if you're going to be anything like that, but you're not. You're a murderer. Literally a murderer. Like, I'm not saying Zod didn't deserve that. But that's not up for me to decide. That's the thing. We don't get to decide. We don't get to play God.
Despite being compared to God.
Right. Well, but it's not his role, right? You can't be judge, jury, and executioner.
They seem that he should be.
But why? That's not Superman. You've read enough Superman to know what he's like. You know what I mean? Like, why didn't, whether it's David S. Goyer or Zack Snyder, pick up All-Star Superman, pick up Birthright. Some of these stories are amazing. They make you feel. They get you in those feels. This just pisses me off. So what would you give it overall? You gave 78 basically a 6.
Mm-hmm. I'll be doing my sister's, and then I'll be doing mine. My sister gave it a 5 out of 10.
Okay.
And then I gave it a 4.5 out of 10.
I think that's fair. Almost more fair than I am. I would say I would give it a 4 out of 10 just because it feels like there was a good movie in there, and what's disappointing is they went the cheap way. They didn't go the way, like, we didn't have a montage of Superman saving people. Like you said, the only person he saved was fucking Lois. She was just there to be a damsel in distress.
Even though that's her usual, but at least she actually,
she pulls her weight.
It's not like this.
She usually pulls her weight, at least.
Yeah.
Her whole identity in this movie was centered around Clark. We didn't see her investigating anything but Clark. And then we get the thirst. Like some of the cinematography was really good. She's almost
kind of a Mary Sue herself. Because this, besides Perry White always telling her no, she finds everything super easily because it's like literally given to her.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, you were saying.
Sorry, I was taking a drink.
Dang, I should have kept talking.
No, I always time it so bad when I think you're gonna say something more, and then I. But yeah, she didn't even when she's trying to find, Clark, like where he's worked, what he's done, this person that's disappeared, went over different fake names. Everything comes like right in her hands. She finds everywhere he's worked, so much so that she finds Pete, who leads her to the house, the farmhouse. Like, she doesn't have to try at all. Like, she literally finds how I don't understand how she would be allowed on that military camp when they were in the. I know she kind of says you got denied in appeals court, but is that normal for a reporter to be allowed on confidential military camps?
I literally have no idea.
I don't either.
I was like, wait, you got that power? I don't know. That's why I was wondering if that was her dad and just giving her access or something.
No, and I don't think it was meant to be. It's just so weird how if the plot calls for it, she's allowed. If the plot calls for it, she finds this. There's no in 2.5 hours or right around there, a little bit less than that. There's no struggle for barely any character besides the fight with Zod. And then they just destroy the world that they've created.
Yeah.
I also don't know how I feel about Clark taking down and ruining that $12 million satellite. I feel like Clark could have taken it down in a much better fashion. I know that's picking, but generally Superman has a lot of respect for the government, right? Generally he has a lot of respect for stuff that costs $12 million, and he's just like, whoop, goodbye. I guess it's better than being spied upon, but yeah, I don't know. The whole movie was hard. It's hard to get through. It's a disappointment. That's the best way to describe it. Speaking of disappointments, we should totally continue with BVS.
Oh, okay.
The thing is with that, you get the classic, why did you say her name? Martha! If the cringe of, oh my god, I just think he's kind of hot wasn't bad enough for you, you get Martha. And creepy Lex sticking candy in another grown-ass man's mouth. It's weird. Oh, goodness. Okay, we are going to wrap up, but is there anything we missed you wanted to say about the wonderful Man of Steel?
How is there a fandom with this movie?
I know! I actually don't hate, I actually don't mind. I would say even verging on I like Watchmen by Zack Snyder. But that's because he's writing like, you know, kind of heroes that aren't really heroes. But this, I don't understand how any like diehard Superman fan, anybody that's read a Superman comic, anybody that's enjoyed this character really sits down and they're like, yep, this is Superman. How? Where? Did I miss it? Like, this isn't Superman. This is Invincible.
And funny enough, I remember asking my dad about this. I was like, what did you think of it? Because he loves action and all that stuff. He's like, I love the action. It's not Superman. And this is a guy who doesn't read the comics.
That's crazy. You know, enough people are familiar with his characterization, though.
Yeah, exactly.
To feel like they, you know, your dad probably, I mean, I don't know, but, you know, grew up on like the 78, that kind of Superman. The cheesy, funny, goofy, heroic, dare I say heroic Superman. That murder machine. Pretty much. Oh, goodness gracious. Make sure you guys subscribe to Bianca's channel. It will be in the description. And we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.